Thanks to Steve, I was invited to participate in this wonderful virtual meeting that he hosts every Monday. And I've been absent the past few weeks because I've been kind of multitasking a few things. And my opportunity I have is I'll go back and be a logistician for the Air Force. That's pretty much what I was when I got out of the Air Force many eons ago. I was a supply logistics logistician, and I was at Hill Air Force Base. So I'm somewhat familiar with this position, but not totally. They had kind of deprecated this position back then. There weren't many around, and I'm going to an area where I've never been before, so I don't know a lot about it. And how I landed it was going to the Utah Department of Workforce Services Virtual Career Fair in January. I had been out of work for about 7 months. I had been massively upscaling with certificates, trying to go into my background as a data analyst or a business analyst. I was doing certificates for product management, Scrum Master, and a variety of other things. AI. I took a 2-week boot camp. I was doing PMP, project management professional. I still need to take the test, and that certificate will actually be beneficial. So I'm doing all this work, and the job I landed, I probably won't use anything but the project management professional. And so at the virtual fair, there was the Air Force was there, or civilian personnel. I can't remember if it was there, and they had these two logistic management positions. And so I applied. I figured, oh, what the heck? I've applied to Hill before. I've never gotten in, and I had gone through 6 months of maybe 3 interviews. They were always finding more qualified people than me, or not interested, and had put in probably at least, well, it was hundreds of applications. It was literally hundreds of applications. I attended a lot of virtual fairs, attended a lot of resume preps, interview preps, and just wasn't getting anywhere. I got out at a time, unfortunately, when the market was pretty rough last year. So opportunity was slim, and of course there was end of year. So new year, new opportunity, and yeah, there was a lot more out there. And then from there, I was selected to go for the interview. Part of it was because I have a disability since I am retired Air Force. So that I think may have been part of the reason to put me into that area. And then I went for the interview, and it was interesting. They had you um, answer questions beforehand, and they gave me this pen that didn't work. And I was really nervous because it was like in this, kind of secret area. And so I'm writing with this pen, and it kept coming apart. And I was afraid to change out to my pen. I thought, well, my pen's black ink and this is blue, and maybe there's some reason for that. So I'm trying to write the answers down. I can't read them. And I turned them into the person who was escorting me. And I said, I'm so sorry, they probably can't read my answers. She says, these answers are for you. I'm like, well, we're toast. I can't read them either. I won't be able to read these. And so they went in, there was a panel, I think, of 4 people and an observer, and they re-asked those questions. And I really didn't think I did that well, but they were really impressed with my experience because it matched the stuff they needed. They said it takes a while to train people. It's nice to have someone come in, not trained in their area, but having a lot of Air Force experience. And I have like an acquisition management um, certificate and a project management certificate level ones from way back when. Um, and I'll be in a team and being their logistics support. So I'm really excited about that. The people said the interview process is a little bit different, and they were very good at putting me at ease, but it felt kind of odd because I just spent 20 minutes trying to write with a pen that didn't work. It kept coming apart. So kind of walked in with a little bit of stress, and then trying to read my notes well enough to answer the question. Um, I did follow up afterwards with a thank you note. It was in a secure area, so it's so funny. I got in the car to write the thank you notes. Like, oh no, how do I get back in? So I went ahead and just wrote them. Spent the half an hour or so to write the handwritten thank you notes, and called the people. And finally, the administrative assistant came out. She goes, "We're in a meeting." I said, "Oh, these are for you, all of you." And so I handed her those. Um, and then I got a call from one of the branch chiefs who said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call us anytime. And so I did. They were using meetings and stuff. But I did follow up and let them know I was super interested because it just seemed like a good fit as far as having a little bit of a skill set with years of experience, everything with data analytics, everything has been like 2, 3 years, not a lot of depth to it. I don't know if there's anything else to add as far as what got me through. I think in part was the first selection was part was the disability rating, in part was having a little bit of background, and in part I was really interested and excited about doing the job. It kind of puts me in an area that I love, which sounds really odd because you're supporting the warfighter. The warfighter doesn't usually go out. The aim is supposedly peace, but it's usually destruction to obtain that means. Although we do a lot of humanitarian, because when I was in, we did a lot of humanitarian in Europe. But it still makes me feel good to go back, despite current situations, and serve the country. I'm very patriotic in that sense. I don't think we're perfect, but after living in other parts of the world and knowing the values we're trying to espouse, excuse me, I think that this is one way I can serve and give back to my country and to the people in my country, despite if they think that defense, Department of War has the right goal and costs a lot of money. There's still a lot of good that does come out of that, and this just because how the world has evolved. And Steve, do I need to answer anything else
Yeah,
with this?
I'm gonna make people ask you questions. If they have it,
Okay.
they can just wish you well. But I'm gonna be the first person to ask you a question.
Uh,
So,
you
Laura did an interview that's typically different. I just want to clarify this for those who might be applying for federal jobs like a military base of some sort. And I believe what she was given a paper with questions for her to answer the questions. And then normally, if the pen works, she is brought into this meeting, and there's usually the person who introduces and says, these people, you can't ask them any questions. They're just going to, you just
Yeah.
talk, and you have whatever time they gave you have 30 minutes to answer all 5 questions. I wanted to confirm that that's what you had, except for, unfortunately, you couldn't probably read all your writing because you gave you a pen that didn't work.
Right. I couldn't read much of my writing. Thank goodness I had just written them. But when I'm more extemporaneous, I usually don't exactly recall what I just did. I go with what comes to mind based on the conversation. There really wasn't a conversation. And you're right. They asked a question. They said I wouldn't have. They said I couldn't ask any questions. I think I did ask when I said, can I answer them in any order? So I then sequenced them by those which I thought I could speak the best to first, because it was more clear in my mind, and allowing that other questions, it was 4 or 5. The others kind of marinate. So when I came to them, I'd be able to speak to them. So the first one I answered was, how well are you at briefing? I'm like, oh, I can do that. I said, as long as I'm prepped and trained and people giving the material and I can get the content, I have no trouble speaking on anything. So I do better, if I can read something, because when I'm more extemporaneous, sometimes I will get tongue tied. But I didn't tell them that part, um, but, and then I went from there to the other questions. I actually I thought I blew one question because I answered it because I couldn't read my writing. So I answered it with the answer to another question. So I got to that question. I'm like, well, I've kind of already answered it. I don't think I need to take your time up um, re-answering it. I'll expand just a little bit, and it wasn't much. And I was done way early. I mean, way early. It's like half hour done. I don't know, less than 20 minutes. Everyone else was running overtime. And so they're like, well, if you know anything for us, it was a pleasure meeting you. I think you know your way out. And I felt like it was like, go have a good life. That's honestly what I thought. I'm like, well, I blew that one, and this had been a great job. Especially after other interviews I went through where I thought for sure I was, up for a second interview or something. This one I just figured I just blew it. Couldn't read my notes. I messed up the questions. I did have a lot of experience. They were super excited every time I gave example stories because it meshed with what they needed because of my Air Force experience. And then I did return, and at least gave them the note cards. So I really thought I had blown it, and they may have said positive things at the end, but I didn't hear it. If they did, I just mainly heard I made my own voice saying, I didn't do it right. I could barely answer the questions. I've been in here less than 20 minutes, and everyone else is on extended time. So it's one of those Murphy laws could go wrong, but in this case, it worked out for the good.
All right. Thank you for answering that. I'm going to just put people random. If they don't have anything, great. If they just want to wish you congratulations, they don't know who it's going to be. First one's Kevin.
I'm good, man. Congratulations. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Now I need somebody to help me put people in and off. Okay. Next up is Jason.
Well, congratulations. Just is this first Sentinel then?
No, it's not.
It's not. I'll ask you all kinds of detailed questions about what it is then, so you can violate your security code first. Um, can you talk about
I
what the
don't
general
know. So
thing is?
I was not going to say much about the position. I mean, it's not super classified, but I really don't know what I can and cannot say. So
Oh, okay.
about the position, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, but and it sounds like that it does fit in what you've done before
Yeah.
then. Um,
Yeah.
so what was the work you were doing previously before
So
you retired?
yes, I was in the Air Force. I was a supply, became later a supply logistics officer. I worked. I went to college and was raised in Florida. I went out west and I served a couple of bases out here, to include Hill Air Force Base, as a supply officer. And as a supply officer, I worked at base level, headquarters level, and depot level here at Hill. And I retired as a supply squadron commander in Hawaii on the Arizona Memorial. At Hill, we do a rotational, roughly 6 month thing. We're there here for 3 years. And so for the first 2 years, we rotate every 6 months and learn a part of the depot. And the last year, we're supposed to find a permanent position.
Mm.
And so I had an awesome position. They were going through a reorg, but they didn't want to lose the slot that they're trying to put the person into by like messing with the civilian personnel. How can you put someone in and pull them out if you're trying to slot this person in? They're just waiting
Right.
like for the authorizations. So they put us in as career broadeners. We're called logistic career broadeners. So I got to oversee these people who manage the trainers, the flight simulators and stuff. They were like the program managers and engineers and stuff. And it was awesome. The people were super kind. I learned a lot because I had like the A10s and the I think F-111's still around, the F-15, oh, the F-16 for sure. And then the aerospace equipment, aerospace equipment, excuse me, for medical training evaluation back in Texas. But I also was a support person in supply, trying to keep bench stocks and shelf life items, help them get better organized for all the depot maintenance for the planes, the C-130s and the F-18s and the F-16s that were going through there at the time. I worked over the computer part. They couldn't really do much, but they had a bunch of computers that were totally not inventoried or labeled or something. I shouldn't say that, but anyway. So I had this person. He was a GS-14. They said he's yours, and so I put a plan together, and I whipped that warehouse in the straight shape. So they had proper security. They had a desk for there were people just wandering back, and we got the kind of the inventory straight. It was like just an Excel spreadsheet or something with something just on the computer, because it's like a internal small computer uh, contingency they had. I mean, worked other places. So I think that, and then we with career broadeners, we would learn about the community here. We learned about the UPS, USPS, UPS facility when it first went in. So we learned about logistics. We had guest speakers, and so here at Hill, it really opened my eyes to beyond just being that base level warfighter, and seeing how the mission is supported in ways most people never see, who are just, and not just, but who are the frontmost people. Yeah, just
Right.
how parts rolled, how I was in item management, working in landing gear, seeing how the repair process works, seeing how they work forecast, how they had to really massage it in some cases because of the algorithms, and so it was an incredible opportunity. That's my background. And then in headquarters, I served in Hawaii and squadron commander in Hawaii. Base level, other places here in the West, and in Europe, I was in Europe during Desert Storm on the tap to go. The chief, they said, "Do you want your officer?" And they said, "No, we got a chief master sergeant here. Don't send the officer. The chief can take care of it." I'm like, "Yeah, the chief can take care of it." They had to get a clearance because only officers could sign for classified. There was classified, obviously, at the location that my squadrons were deploying to. And so I stayed in Europe, helped set the repair process, of they had to repair things. They had limited repair test stations and repair equipment in the theater, so they had they set up a repair flight circuit, flying parts into Europe and take them to the various facilities. We had to create process control because, like guard, they had to get that same part back. Air Force, you turn one in, you get one out. Whatever comes out comes out. And so we had to set up manual processes to intervene at all the bases in Europe so that the right parts went back if they had to go back. It was really fun.
And that's just so that classified stuff doesn't end up in the wrong guy's hands.
Well, that's true, but part of it's just not even that. Part of it could be the guard may have bought this certain LRU, and they need to make sure that particular part gets back. Can't just be one. In other cases, we had mods and modified parts and not modified parts for that same LRU. And we had to make sure, when the system kind of takes care of it, but because of the theater, we had to just make sure the modified. We had to watch that closely.
Right.
Not few parts.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for your service again. And yeah, and keep those people on the straight and narrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely want to be the straight and narrow where I'm going to. Yeah.
Okay. Next up is Kaylin.
I don't have any questions. I don't. I thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Next up is Roger.
Well, congratulations, Laura. I'm glad to see you're getting back to work. I have one quick question. Did you still have an active security clearance?
No, I've been out for quite some time. So they'll be reinitiated.
So it's not that much for them to go back and reinitiate that.
They didn't say anything about that. I know when I was offered a job a couple years ago, I still think back to this, and I took the job here at Fidelity because I didn't want to move, even though it was just to Colorado Springs. And I think I would have loved Colorado Springs. It was to be the assistant program manager for a contractor, and they did tell me how much it cost for the security clearance and everything. So it's quite expensive.
Now, are you working for the federal government or for the military branch?
Oh, so I'll be a federal civilian employee working for the Air Force.
So the federal government is hiring once again.
Yes.
Sounds like it.
Yes, and this was a direct hire. I can't remember if it's one of those special acquisition hires or not. They have to stand up a lot of programs really fast up there. I live south of there. They have to stand up a lot of programs really fast, and a couple of areas are pushing hard, or were. I don't know. Yeah, or they were.
It looks like you live close to where I live. What's your background?
Mm.
She's in Utah County, right, Laura?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm in Kaysville. When you said south of Hill, that's where I thought.
Yeah, in fact, when I started looking for jobs, by the time January had rolled around, I'm like, I could go beyond Salt Lake, because I was not getting. I interviewed for some jobs down here in Utah County, and just Valley was just not getting. Didn't interview, put applications in. And so I was doing a lot in Salt Lake. I'm like, oh man, depending where it is in Salt Lake, then there's no train off the drive, and coming home it's going to be. I've been there, done that when I worked for FedEx, and it's like an hour and a half average. Can go to 2.5 hours on Fridays, and then I said I could go to Hill when I saw that thing, and so Hill is almost close to a commute to Salt Lake, depending where in Salt Lake. Time wise, it's more distance, but it's time wise, it's roughly the same.
You can always take Front Runner and get off at Clearfield or Roy and bus on over too.
I could, but it's an hour and a half train ride.
Yeah,
so
that's right. It's long.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mike.
Yeah, congratulations, Laura. How long did you say you were looking before you found this one?
It'd been just a little over 6 months when I applied.
Okay.
And then I got a part-time job, which I love. I was really sad to give it up, this returnship coordinator in the following month in February. And then this got slowed down just a little bit. Just so their process and my process, I was so busy I had to review before I could get back, and so most of the work was done in March to hire. They are way faster than they used to be, though. I mean, extremely. I mean, extremely faster than what they used to be.
And you said you're getting your PMP.
Yes, yes. I went through the course, the 35 hours required, put in my application, got accepted. I'm going through Department of Workforce Services to pay for the PMP um, uh, test, and then it's on my list this week now that things are slowing down to schedule it. Um, Probably in May. So I need to refresh. They're changing the test in July to include Agile. And though I worked in Agile a lot, I'd rather not have to test in it. So,
All right.
yeah.
I've had my PMP for about 12 years, but it did expire on me, so I'm gonna have
Oh,
to redo
it
it.
expires? Did not know that.
It does every 3 years, so you've got to do continuing education.
Oh, that's good to know. What does the continuing education consist of?
There's a lot of options. Just go to the PMI.org website,
Okay.
or you can Google PMI or PMP continuing education. So I've renewed 3 times maybe. There's lots of options. There's some you don't have. There's some that are thousands of dollars, and there's others that's 300.
Okay. Okay.
So find the ones that are 300 to get your continuing education credits.
Okay. And how did you find the original test? I realize it's 12 years ago, but everyone tells me it's long, it's a kicker, and so I've been really nervous about that.
It was difficult. The concepts aren't, but they're very precise in their language and what this means and what that means. And they'll use a lot of you must versus you should.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And so it's like, you must, you should, you might, it's a lot of that. It's all try to trick you. I barely passed, even though
All I
I'd
care.
been a project manager for many years.
Uh,
So
okay.
it's study. You do need to study.
Yeah,
Definitely study.
that's when you hit hard. I did back in November, and I was doing an AI boot camp in December, learning how to create like rack systems and stuff, and different other things they taught us. And then I started interviewing and got the job in January, February. So back to the books now for PMP.
Yep.
Also, I would
Good
think,
luck.
Laura, that there might be some practice tests out there for you, as well as I'm just looking at a client that I meet with today. He's not here today, but his name is Quincy Chapman, and he is the president of the PMI Northern Utah chapter. I could talk to him. I'll be meeting with him this afternoon. So maybe
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
maybe Mike
Yeah.
knows him. I don't know if Mike knows him or not.
I don't.
Okay.
I was part of the chapter, but I've never done anything with the chapter.
So
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, anything he can pass on or his contact info. I'll be up in northern Utah now a lot more in Davis County. So
And like Steve said, there are practice tests, and I would highly recommend going through those.
okay, thank you.
sometimes, even like with what Tammy is talking about, the practice test, they'll say once you're at this certain proficiency, you're ready to take the test. Sometimes
Yeah,
that's what it says. So
yeah. In the class we had it was a huge class. It was virtual. There was people who were like more ready, and once they got to 80%, I think on 3 tests consistently, they were then said, yeah, go ahead and schedule yourself for it, taking the test. So I was going to use the same guidelines.
okay, all right. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. That's great.
Okay, next up is Carla.
No questions and congratulations. I'm so excited to know that at least somebody's hiring. So great. Congrats.
This is the longest unemployment stint I've ever had, so it was getting a little tough come December.
Yeah, that's a little bit long.
Yeah.
Mhm. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is Brian Clark. Maybe he is there.
Sorry about that. Now that I'm on a landline instead of on a mobile. Congratulations. I really don't have any questions, but really appreciate the insight into the armed services hiring practices and that type of thing. So I've been thinking about applying to some positions at Hill, and so it's just good to get some insight. So I appreciate it.
And it's a 2-page resume now, which
Yeah.
is incredibly easier. I think the hardest thing was it got posted. I didn't have much. I was doing other, applications, and I was pushing at the deadline. I was getting ready to put it in, and they had you capitalize a lot of the words. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't capitalize any of these words. So I'm going back trying to get the resume updated. And afterwards, I looked at that, and I messed up like twice. And usually they're so picky, so I shouldn't tell that on them. But I was like, I'm so glad they didn't catch those two or let it slide, one or the other. It was just like capitalized or not capitalized, or half the word was capitalized or something. But it also is brand new, the 2-page. It's just been out a few months.
So thank you for the insights. Appreciate it. And congratulations again.
Yeah, thank you.
That's good to know, Laura. I didn't know it was gone to 2-page. I used to help people
Mhm.
with federal resumes. Also, Laura has a wild card. She's a veteran and she's a disabled vet. So that
Yes.
gives her preferential treatment, which means they don't have to go through the normal process. They can jump the line of all the rest of us who apply. So she's got that as well. So next up is, and I hope I'm not missing anybody, but next up is Tommy.
Congratulations. I don't have any
Thank-
questions.
Okay. I do want to add one other thing. If anyone is looking at federal service, Hope White on Facebook, maybe it's LinkedIn, try both. She offers a lot of free resources like on resume prep and stuff like that. So I would recommend looking up Hope White for more information. I think her resources are really good.
Okay, I will look for that, and if I don't find it, I may reach out to you. Of course,
Sure.
you are in contact for other reasons too. So, all
Okay.
right. Next up is, I think I've hit everybody, but John White.
Except me, yeah. Hi, Laura. Congratulations on your new job, and I want to thank you for your heart.
Oh, thanks.
What you said about loving and taking care of our service members touched me deeply. So thank you for that, and thank you for your service. I did have one question, but I think you just answered it. It used to be, Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong. 9 years ago, when I was working with Steve, I took a class from him on resumes for the military. And Steve, am I wrong? They could sometimes be 20 pages.
That is true. That is true. So back in the day, man, John, I don't realize we've known each other that long, but at one time, federal resumes were anywhere from 5 to 20 pages long. For a lot of us, we talk about this, and this will be part of our conversation later on today, possibly, when we get to interview, is, that behavioral-based question. Typically, they used to have these things called KSAs, and it would say the person must be able to demonstrate the following KSAs. And as I was trained from a couple people from Hill, you were to actually write the whole story out. And they said that the actual resume is equivalent to a first interview in the public sector. And so, Steve, if people don't take the time to do this more robust resume, there's a good chance they won't be considered. So you were exactly right. And that's what Laura knows. And I used to be one of the few people. There were two people here up in northern Utah that would teach classes on how to do federal resumes. And finally, I just wanted a template. I knew if I got a template, everybody could learn how to do a resume. But now I need to check out this Hope White, because the federal government's a great place to work. And here's the one thing we all need to remember. Once you're in that umbrella, for example, at Hill Air Force Base, 6 months down the line here, if Laura wants to, she can apply for another role internally, and she has first ops over even people on the outside that are veterans, or us. And then that's how her job becomes available on the market for the rest of us. So that's one way. And veterans always have preferential treatment. And if you're a disabled or disabled vet, you get other preferential treatments. And so she has a wild card. Normally having what somebody said about a security clearance for the federal government, it's not as big as big a deal as it is for a contractor. As Laura said, it's very expensive. They're secret and top secret, and they're both very expensive and they're both time consuming. And the person who does the security clearance is the government. So for them to have one of those, that's not really a feather in her cap if she has one in hand, because they're going to do the background on her anyway. But you're right, John. It was very time consuming, and now, just like anybody else, I continue to learn. And if I give you guys bad advice in the past, I'll repent and give you new advice of what's going on in the near future, because things change. Laura's found that out in her job search. Things has changed, and she's become a really good student.
It was changing over the course of time. That's what amazed me. Like what I learned at end of July, first part of August was completely different by October almost. For the federal positions, most of them will have a probationary period of 1 year. So you can expect that. So you usually can't leave and go for another position, but then you can apply internally. And then you guys, a lot of y'all might already know this, but on USA Jobs is where you go to find those jobs. They'll be sometimes targeted. They'll have like they'll have little icons, but it's for veterans or disabled veterans, or it's internal applicants only. But you just can look for those icons as you search for jobs to see what audiences are being or people are being targeted for that position.
Any other questions, John?
No, that was it. Thank you. I couldn't believe the difference between 2 pages and 20 pages.
I feel like I didn't really describe my career like I did in the past with that I had I think it was 15 pages, I think.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I almost forgot somebody. Tammy. I don't think I brought Tammy up yet.
No,
Sorry,
you
Tammy.
haven't. I was going to say something.
Well, I'm glad. I feel bad if I forget anybody. So,
Well, Laura, congratulations. You've had quite the career. I'm absolutely impressed and wow. I mean, I'm jealous.
Oh, I love my
Um,
career. I cried when I retired, but we need to do a life change family wise. Then we came here.
so, how do you go about, or how did you go about finding places where you're getting your certificates, and do they all cost money or any of them free?
I'm trying to think. Since I'm military, I go to some virtual meetups. There's one on Saturday I go to, and they give away free certificates sometimes. And so that's how I got my Scrum Master. No, I actually got my Scrum Master through Department of Workforce Services. There's it wasn't $4,000 from my program. I think it was for veterans, Steve. It's $750, but it's paying for that. It's going to pay for my PMP, pretty much. And then in that meetup for the military on Saturdays, they'll say, "I've got such and such to hand out, certificates," and they'll have some criteria. So I've got, I can't think what I've gotten. I got, although I haven't gotten it yet, a voucher for it. Oh my gosh, Security Plus. And then another program is for military. It's called O2O through Syracuse University. So I found most of my avenues for paying for them is through military stuff and
Okay.
Department of Workforce Services. So maybe check them out.
So I just put the link in there for everybody, where you can start with the Department of Workforce Services. There is a catch. A couple catches are, number one, you have to be in transition. If your job came to an end, that's what qualifies you. Do you have to be collecting unemployment? You don't, but you have to go through the unemployment process to start the process. Once you're there, and let's say you're getting a severance and you were denied, then that's where the process starts. And they have a list of all the things. If it's not on there, you can talk to them. The purpose of this is to help you get reemployed quicker. That's what the purpose is. Maybe you're, pivoting or repurposing yourself. There is one caveat. Depending on when you get your last paycheck, it is tied to income. And so it's household income. So if there's multiple people in the income, it's about that income. So That does sometimes play into it. I have had one person turned down, but I think his wife was an IT person. She made around 85 or 90,000, and that between the two of them, that did disqualify him.
Hmm.
So, again, there is some other free training out there too, but that's the biggest one for certificates, those kind of things. So, yeah, good question.
And then if there's any military, Coursera offers a free year of Coursera. I got mine through Blue Star Families, which is for military spouses, but they take veterans and military active duty. But you can get that also.
And Laura and anybody else's military, if you're unemployed, you get LinkedIn Learning for free for up to 1 year.
Yeah, that's true too. Premium linked. Yeah.
Premium. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Tammy?
No, but thank you.
Thank you.
Did I miss any? Did I miss anybody? Okay. Next. So Laura, I guess any parting words of advice for everybody that, you've been in this process, you've been in the trenches, you've been to a lot of things that, tell me if they've been beneficial, because you went to, since you're in Utah County, you went to Silicon Slopes, you hung out with lots of different people. You're not afraid to go to events. I did put the link in there for that current one you're doing that you love, that if that's something for people called BioHive, which is new for me. And you shared that the other day. Any other advice that you want to give everybody? Right now, you're the expert. You just landed your next job.
I always feel like it takes tenacity to keep going, and this time I really got tested, and the tenacity kept me going. But it always seems serendipitous for me the last few jobs. It's something out of the blue. So if I wasn't being tenacious, I would have missed the serendipitous opportunity, so to speak. So by going to the Utah Current Workforce Services Career Fair again and saying, okay, hey, I used to be a logistics management logistics person. I'll go ahead and apply for this. It worked out. So that opportunity, that serendipitous opportunity can arise while you're being tenacious. But I still think you have to be tenacious or you'll miss it.
Okay. Anything else? This is Laura Orcutt. Thank you for taking the time, spontaneous, and sharing today. And I'm going to end this recording. We're going to continue to go.
Thank you.